Hello, I'm Andy.
And I'm Emmy.
We're a couple
hmm
and we like BDSM.
hmm
And we're here to teach you how to do it too if you would like to. So, BDSM and kink in general are things that for me personally, maybe for you as well, I felt very intimidated to try, particularly because I knew that I was probably going to be the dominant one.
Mm.
And I was nervous about, like, what if I don't know what I'm doing? I don't understand all the toys and how they work. How do I even be in that sort of dominant position? Like, what if somebody doesn't respect my dominance? Like, what if it doesn't work? And I had a lot of pressure on myself, or I put a lot of pressure on myself to do a good job. But over the years of doing this, which has been, I don't know, for me, probably like 8 or 9 years, and for you, six,
Yeah, about
yeah,
that.
I've come to see, or we've come to see, that BDSM and kink is just sort of a fun playground that you can play around in. And the mindset that we like to take and that we encourage our coaching clients is just try a few different things, see what you like, maybe try some toys or try some different dynamics, just explore and give yourself permission to suck with it. You don't have to be perfect. You can slowly improve over time. It is kind of a big playground where you get to try a bunch of different things and see what you actually enjoy.
Yeah, and as you said, I think seeing it as something that has a lot of rules or a lot of restrictions, or there's things that you can and can't do, rather than seeing it as a fun opportunity to try a bunch of things, that's what can make it feel quite intimidating. Where
As
that
in, if you tell yourself there's lots of rules, that can make it intimidating. Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for sure. So it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. You can just try a bunch of different things and see what you like. So go out there with your partners, try some things. And here's six. We're going to do five, but we'll do six. Six different things that you can try to kind of get started if you've never done any BDSM or kink before. So, probably my first suggestion is to try blindfolds. So, you can buy an actual blindfold. You could buy a silk necktie or any ties that you have, from a suit. You could use the arms or the sleeves of a jumper or a jacket or whatever you got, but something to tie over the face so you can't quite see. We can take our blindfolds off. We look cute, but it's hard to talk like that. Why is a blindfold so much fun?
Well, I guess a blindfold falls under sensory deprivation. So removing one or multiple of your senses to heighten other senses. Because when you can't see, you're far more attuned to like your sense of touch and your
Mm.
sensitivity. And that can be a really fun element of it. I think the other thing with blindfolds as well is that there's that anticipation of like you don't know what's going to happen and there's a level of excitement there. It's like a bit of a thrill.
Mm.
That's part of what I like about it.
Yeah, and as you say, like everything else is heightened when you lose the sense of sight. It's like if you see blind people on the street, right? You have to like whisper really quiet because even if you're like hundreds of feet or hundreds of meters away, they can hear you because they have like supersonic, like a bat. They can just hear anything, like even sometimes kilometers away. Why are you looking at me like that? Okay, any blind people listening, you can't see, but she's making a face at me. They probably can tell. Blind people can probably feel, like with braille through the computer or the phone, what expression you're making.
I think the other thing about blindfolds as well is that it does add that extra level of submission because you
Mm,
are
mm,
more, I guess, vulnerable
mm.
or at the mercy of the dominant or whoever's in control because your
You're
sense
kind of
of
just
sight,
letting go.
yeah, your sense of sight has been removed. So there's less that you can, that feels like there's less that you can control.
And there's less you can anticipate, which is part of the fun.
hmm
You don't know what's coming next when you're blindfolded. And if you're the person doing the blindfolding, there's a lot of fun in that too, because it's almost like everything you do is a surprise to the other person. So it's like you're giving them a bunch of surprises or a bunch of gifts or like a present, like it's Christmas time. And it's like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to touch them here. I'm going to kiss them there. I'm going to bite them on the neck. They weren't anticipating that because they don't know what you're doing or where you are. And so it's like this fun little playground that you both get to enter into where you, the person who's being the dominant one in that position, you know what you're about to do next, but the other person doesn't. And it's kind of fun to play around with that a little bit, to do something that you wouldn't normally do, or do it in a different order than you would normally do, or even do fun things like blindfold them and have sex completely normally like you normally would, but it's just completely everything is absolutely heightened and 10 times more fun.
And I think the other thing that we've said as well, if you are the person in the dominant position and you're trying to use a blindfold, it's a nice easy one because there's not much in the way of expectations for you there. Like you can kind of look a bit clumsy and awkward and pause and take your time because the other person is blind. They don't know what's happening. And so one, everything automatically feels better, as we already talked about. But two, you can kind of fumble around a bit and they're not exactly able to witness that, or your partner's not able to see that that's going on. So it's kind of like a safety blanket in a way. And at times when I've been more dominant and we've played around with that and you've been blindfolded, it can be quite liberating in a way. Like it almost makes it easier to let go because it doesn't feel like I'm being watched and it feels easier and then I can act or dominate more freely.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about that. I've talked about this in two separate articles. So over on my blog on killyourinnerloser.com, I did an article that I'm showing on the screen here about, when you're nervous, you can literally just put a blindfold on your partner and it takes away all the pressure to do a good job. It's okay if you look silly. It's okay if you have like erectile dysfunction or performance anxiety. It takes a lot of pressure off you not having to show or not having the other person be able to see you. And I also, a while ago, wrote an article on dealing with erectile dysfunction and performance anxiety. So yeah, one of the solutions that I said was you can use a blindfold, and then it's less pressure on you. And our second suggestion is to grab a pair of handcuffs. And you can obviously just use almost anything to tie someone's wrists as well. You can use a silk necktie from a suit or, an actual pair of handcuffs or anything like that. And the good thing about this is you can tie it in, pun intended, I guess, tie it in with the blindfolds. You can kind of combine a lot of the stuff that we're saying here, or just use the handcuffs themselves as they are.
Similarly to what we said about the blindfolds before, there is, if you're, at least from my perspective, the one that's more often being submissive, there obviously is a sense of like you're more helpless, you're more at the mercy of your partner, there's more of the letting go required because you've lost some element of control because you literally can't move your hands, you're restrained. It's the vulnerability that you're letting your partner have that power over you, especially in the very vulnerable setting of sex.
Yeah, and it's a fun little thing that you get to share together. You're kind of giving up your trust, you're letting go a little bit, you're surrendering, and there's almost like a meditative aspect to that. It's kind of like if you go and get a great massage, or if you're someone that does meditation or yoga, or even just chilling out and relaxing. We've all felt that moment of like chilling out, relaxing, letting go of all of our burdens and our stress and just enjoying the moment. I mean, even alcohol gets you to that place, or gets a lot of people to that place of letting go. That's kind of what handcuffs and a lot of BDSM in general is trying to get for the submissive person. You're trying to give them that experience of like letting go. And then you as the dominant person get to give that experience to someone. So you get to feel that like giving value or nurturing or like looking after and giving that great experience to someone else. And you're sharing in that too, obviously. It's a lot of fun for the dom as well.
And I think the other thing as well, if you are playing around with anything like impact plays, that'd be like spanking or whips or paddles or anything like that, or even just rough, passionate sex, anything where you're moving around a lot, where you might be not struggling, but I think moving around a lot is probably the best way to express it. There is something that's hot, or I think there's a fantasy in kind of resisting the bonds or like kind of fighting against it, but then again feeling helpless. Like it further solidifies that headspace.
And what a great metaphor for like the very act of letting go in real life, like meditation, a massage, any of these things where we let go of our stresses and burdens. Because we go through life a lot and we're fighting it, we're resisting, we're stressing, we're saying, I wish this didn't happen. I wish it was more like this. It isn't fair. Like we're resisting life. But then when we actually let go and kind of surrender to life or be okay with reality and what is currently happening, then we relax and we're peaceful and we're happy again. BDSM is kind of like a practice for that.
So the next one is ice cubes. So if I'm honest, when we use ice cubes, I think I'm just extra sensitive. Like I tend to find ice cubes to be quite ticklish. Like I'll kind of writhe around a lot and scream and yelp.
Do you want to explain what you use the ice cube for in case anyone's listening and she's like, what? They're like, what is this bitch talking about? What is the ice for?
To run it over your partner's body. And
Ooh, it's so cold and refreshing. Ooh.
As Andy has just exemplified, it is very cold. And so there's a level of sensitivity or just that strong sensation of having something cold against your skin. And that makes your senses more heightened. It's
fun.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a pleasurable thing, but it kind of gets you on edge in a fun, exciting way.
part of the reason that you would use ice cubes, and the same thing as like wax play, if any of you have played around with that or you know what that is, you're getting the person in touch with their own body. And what better way to really feel your body and be present with your body than sticking bloody cold ice cubes on your skin? It's really cold, it's really wet, it's really fun. It makes your body look really sexy too. Like, I love running an ice cube over your body or some other girl that we're dating's body, because you get goosebumps all over your skin. You start to get slippery and like your skin glistens, like it like literally looks good. And your nipples obviously get very hard. You can kind of hold it on someone's nipples, but you can kind of just explore it over their body. And as you're holding the damn thing, you won't be able to tell on the camera, but this is already smaller than it was when I picked it up. As you're moving it on someone's body, the heat from their body makes it melt. And that's fun. Like, it gets really small and you can kind of just have a bit of a play with their body, giving them all these amazing sensations and getting them in touch with their body. And it's fun to tickle them with an ice cube too. Like, certain spots are really sensitive with an ice cube. That's fun.
Yeah, and for me, like as somebody who's very sensitive when it comes to most things, but especially like ice cubes, for whatever reason, I react very strongly to it.
You do.
There is this sense of needing to let go or submit because I feel so strongly. It's such a battle of will for me to relax and let it happen and not wriggle and squeal. And so there's that level of submission and almost need to go further with like a sort of meditative state to be able to let go and actually take it. Similarly to like
it, yeah.
something like impact play where maybe somebody's having to let go through pain, through spanking, whipping. I find that to be the case with ice and that cold sensitivity.
Kind of like a really intense, like a Thai massage, where it's almost painful, but not quite. And I've had a couple of them, and I really do need to, for some of them who are a bit rougher, really do need to, or I choose to, let go and surrender to it and kind of like relax and go like, I will be okay. You know, my body is saying, oh, like it's doing that kind of reaction. And obviously if something really is painful, then stop. I feel like that goes without saying. If any of the BDSM stuff that we ever talk about is actually physically painful or scary or any of that to anyone, stop. Like, have a safe word or just say, yo, can we stop for a second or can we pause? Like, that's a good enough safe word. Can we pause? Can we stop? But there is an element of like letting go and relaxing and almost like surrendering to the experience and not fighting it as much. Again, if something's painful, then stop. But, you know, with things like ice, with things like blindfolds, with things like handcuffs, there is an element of trust and like letting go, trusting the other person that you're with, obviously. That's why we would always encourage do BDSM with someone that you trust. If it's someone new that you've just met and you guys haven't done much BDSM before, which, yeah, we date lots of women who've never done BDSM before. And before I met you, there were lots of women who'd never done BDSM. Just go slow, like one thing at a time. Just try maybe a blindfold the first time and see how they like that. You can ask them first, do you want to try a blindfold? Most people will say, yeah, that sounds fun. But yeah, surrender.
And speaking of blindfolds too, ice can be a really fun one to combine with a blindfold.
Oh, ice is a million times more fun with a blindfold, yeah.
100%, because there's not that knowing of when it's coming, where it's coming in your body, and because it does feel so sensitive, there's absolutely that sense of anticipation. And ice already makes you feel quite sensitive and in tune with your body and your bodily sensations, let alone if you actually remove the sense of sight, so you can't predict it. It even more greatly intensifies.
Yeah, and you can go kind of crazy with this. I say crazy with this. You can go kind of deeper with this. Like, you put on a little bit of like meditative music. Like, just look up on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, like yoga music, Zen music, spa music, meditative music, any of this shit. Just type in hippie music, LSD music, any of this kind of stuff. You can go kind of like deep in that space where, you know, you're the submissive person, you've got a blindfold on, maybe you're handcuffed as well, maybe you've got ice cubes all over your body, maybe there's a little bit of spanking or some teasing or anything fun like that. And you're really going deep, especially with your eyes closed, on like getting in touch with your body. And your mind will kind of be like letting go a little bit, and you'll just be letting go of your worries, letting go of your job or your money worries, relationship worries, like whatever it is that you're worried about, all of that's kind of fading to the background, and you're just very present with your body and how it feels. And that can be such a beautiful place to be in. And then if you're the dominant, it's a different space, but it's equally, I love it equally as much, because I've been submissive with you sometimes and other girls, and then I've been dominant. You know, when I'm dominant, I would say it feels more like I'm giving you a beautiful experience and I'm getting to share that with you. I'm very much right there with you. So it's almost more about like, and it is when you're submissive too, it's like the connection that you're both in that moment. The trust, the vulnerability, the, I would almost say kindness that you're showing each other by looking after each other. Even if you're being really rough and kinky and more passionate and stuff, you're still to some degree looking after that other person, and they're trusting you to look after them. Like, especially if we're going something like blindfolds and restraints, there is trust there and vulnerability. That's a really nice space to be in. It's a very deep space to be in. It's a very nice connection, and it's probably one of the things we like the most about BDSM. It's probably why we do it. It's like for that connection and that intimacy and that trust and stuff you get to share with another human being.
Yeah. The next one that we're going to talk about is spanking or impact play.
Ow.
It did not hurt.
Here, give me your hand. I'm going to do it.
That one's going to be the one that hurts. I did the fluffy side too. Yeah, that hurt.
So what is impact play? What is, I mean, people know what spanking is. Use your hand, just go, oh, that feels nice. Oh.
Yeah, that's exactly how it plays out.
That's the response you want from your partners when you're playing in the bedroom. Oh. And then they wiggle like a little jellyfish.
I don't think I look like that. So why do we like spanking or impact play?
Why is it fun? And impact play can be with your hand, like we said, or like a crop. This is called a crop. Like horse riding. This is just a paddle. We have whips, little fluffy whips. You can have a whole bunch of stuff, or you can just use your hand.
Part of what we like about it is the need, when you're in the submissive perspective, the need to let go and to almost push past that pain element, depending on like the level of pain. Like obviously when you can kind of warm up and spank or use whips very, very lightly, and it's kind of more just like a tapping sensory thing to get you more in touch with your body, or it can get to the point of where it's actually somewhat painful. And again, it's that letting go. It's that meditation of pushing past that point, that submitting to your partner and just giving into the experience that you're having, the play session or the sex that it is that you're having.
Yeah, and an analogy that a lot of people might be able to relate to, if you've ever had a tattoo, a lot of people, especially women, holy fuck, it's almost every woman I've ever talked to, says that they find tattoos after a certain amount of time pleasurable. As in when they're under the needle getting a tattoo, after like half an hour, they start to almost enter this like meditative state where they're like, I kind of liked it. It wasn't that the needle itself felt good, but the space I went to felt good. Like the relaxing and the letting go and the surrendering to the physical pain or discomfort that I had to do to get through the session. Eventually, I was just in this very chill, meditative state that felt really nice. I feel like that too. I almost fall asleep when I got tattoos because I go to this like meditative space. I have to push through the pain, or I choose to push through the pain and let go of it and the discomfort. And then you just relax in this like nirvana space where you're just like chill as hell.
And the other thing as well is that with the pain that comes with it, it's not just pain. So when you're combining pain with pleasure, when you have that aspect of pleasure, your pain threshold goes up, and those two sensations actually start to mingle, and it actually does become pleasurable. Like it makes the pleasure more intensified, because when you're in that point where you're really turned on and you're super, super horny, everything starts feeling good just because you're so horny. Like your brain can't really comprehend anything other than pleasure, and this is feeling good. And so that pain, because it's so intense, it then gives you this very intense, extreme sort of pleasure in the middle of play.
Let's talk about how to actually spank. So easiest way is just use your hands. And if you've never spanked before, you can talk to your partner about it and be like, yo, do you want me to spank you, or beg me to spank you, like right in the middle of sex? Or you can just talk about it before, like, I'd love to spank you. Do you want to try that? But just start with a hand, go kind of gentle, and make it like start out as like a fun little tap, like you said, like literally just go like that. Like it doesn't have to be a big wind up and you like fully punch them and you're just getting in there like, But you can start super gentle with just a little tap and kind of use just your fingers, like rather than your whole hand, because the bony bit of your hand can kind of hurt sometimes. So you're starting gentle, just use your fingertips, just maybe on her bum or his bum, whoever you're doing. Maybe start on the bum is the least painful place and just go little tap and then go like, how does that feel? Tell me how that feels. Like while you're having sex is even better, because then, like you said, you're combining that pain or that discomfort or that sensation. Let's call it a sensation, because it's not always painful to spank. That sensation with the sex, the pleasure, and they go together nicely. So start out kind of gentle and then just say, do you want it harder? And then go a little harder. How does that feel? And just keep asking, how does that feel? Or, you can say it in a dirty talking way, like, do you want it harder? Like, tell me how that feels. tell me that feels good. And at some point, you might get to a level where the person's like, oh, don't go any harder. And you're like, cool, now I know. Like, that's the level that this person enjoys. And so, yeah, it can be this fun little exploration of like, we're not testing their pain tolerance, but we're like showing them what their body is capable of in a weird way. Like, we've had quite a few women that enjoy the spanking bit like almost as a fucking gauntlet of like, what is my body capable of taking? Like, I'm genuinely curious what my body can do. And I've always thought that I had a low pain tolerance. So let's test it. Like, we've had a lot of women that are almost like scientific about it. They're like, I want you to spank me hard, like progressively harder so I can see what I'm capable of taking. And it's like, okay. And then it's like they want to try all the different toys and whips and, crops and paddles and stuff to see like, what is my body capable of?
It feels more like an analytical
Yeah.
exploration
It's
rather
like we
than
have a
like
clipboard and we're like writing it down. Okay, like we put on like 2 newtons of force. I don't know if that's a lot of force. That probably is. 2 newtons of force, 30 psi of force. And yep, she likes that. All right, 35. It really does feel analytical. And that's fun. That's like really fun and sexy. And
for you, who's a bit of a nerd.
yeah, I'm an autistic
I'm
nerd. And so
less
I'm like,
that.
oh, interesting. So that was about 35 psi. Okay, let's go to 36. Like, yeah, that is me. That is me during a lot of BDSM. Hey, I'm like, all right, let's try this. Let's see how this feels. You walk me through how that's feeling right now. Like, what information are we gathering from this? So.
And I think the other thing about as well, kind of starting slowly, is that you do kind of get warmed up to the sensation. Like
you can take more and more the more you practice, yeah.
The skin literally kind of gets warmer and more able to take more as it kind of gets slowly and more progressively, or it progressively intensifies with how hard you're hitting. Versus just going in immediately for something really, really hard, that can be a bit too shocking for the system.
Yeah.
And it can be like, oh, that's too much. Whereas if you gently warm up, not just mentally, but also physically, so the skin can actually warm up and become accustomed to it. We are advocates for starting slow, especially if this is either you've not played with somebody before or if you're just not experienced with BDSM generally.
Yeah, go slow, one step at a time. And to be clear, you don't even have to go anywhere near pain. Like, even if you use toys like these, they don't have to hurt. Like I showed you before, you can just go like a little tap. That is fun. Like, we have some women, you're kind of one of them. You don't like a lot of pain. You used to when we first met, but you don't like it to hurt. You just like it to feel like a sensation.
Yeah, similar to the ice. It is really just a different sensation. It's not necessarily
you're just wanting to feel something. That sounded like what an edgy emo teenager would say. I just want to feel something. Anyway, you can go kind of like gentle and just be like just little taps. Same with your hand. You can just do like little spanks. And the sound also is erotic. Like, especially if you are blindfolded, you, the submissive person, are blindfolded. So you can't see what's happening. And then I spank your bum or something, right? Spank your thighs. Again, we like to start with areas that aren't going to like hurt, like the bum, the thigh, areas with like a decent amount of fat or muscle or whatever. But when you're blindfolded and you can't see what's happening, hearing that sound is almost like a little surprise. It's like, oh, what was that? I didn't know he was going to spank me. And it's like, it's this fun dance where you get very caught up in the pleasure and then you're brought back to a reality with a little tap and the sound effect and everything. You go, oh, he spanked me. And then you're back into the pleasure again. I'm having sex with you, or I'm going down on you, or I'm making you feel good, or using a toy on you. And then another little slap. Oh. It's like you're pushed and you're pulled, and it's all these different like roller coasters of pleasure and sensation and sound. And it's quite a beautiful space to play around in, because especially the dominant person, if you just do whatever the hell you feel like, and maybe that will be taken out of context, but doing stuff that your partner enjoys. But what I mean by that is like, whatever thoughts come into your head when you're the dominant person, just try that. If you're thinking like, oh, I want to spank her now, as long as you both talked about that and you like that, go spank. And then you're like, I really want to like make her feel good for a few minutes now. Do that. And then you're like, oh, I want to spank her again. Do that. Oh, what would happen if I like pull her nipples and play with them for a little bit? Oh, what if I do this? Like, what if I grab the ice cube now? What if I put the handcuffs on? You can kind of just like bounce around and try different things. Almost like, I don't know, you're just like experimenting and seeing what feels good. That's how I've gotten decent at BDSM. It literally is just, I try a bunch of random shit and I see what feels good. And again, for any of the like rougher stuff, I will ask for consent first, blah, blah, blah. But like, you're just trying random shit and seeing what feels good. And so you don't have to be super aggressive with pain or sensation. Most of the time, we're not. Most of the type of BDSM sex or sex that you and I have and that we have with women is pretty like loving and gentle and like nice. I would say we have like nice BDSM.
Yeah, or it feels more intimate. It's not necessarily that
Yeah.
super rough, crazy pushing the
We're not the
limits.
50 Shades of Grey. Not that that was that crazy, but like it's very much like a loving, nurturing, the way I am in videos. I'm like going to be nice. I'm going to be like gentle. I'm trying to make sure everyone has a good time, all that. Not that the other type of, not that rough, aggressive sex isn't fun. And we do that sometimes, for sure. All right, the fifth one is rope, which you can use anything to tie people up, but rope is fun, in its own right because it has a nice feel. This is a nice little rainbow rope that we have, and this is the more traditional rope that you might use for shibari, which is Japanese rope bondage. So you would tie someone up and, all that kind of stuff. So use whatever rope you want. And what is handy to have if you're going to play around with rope?
Safety scissors.
Yeah, they're special safety scissors. They are literally the scissors that they have in like hospitals and stuff because like you can't cut yourself. You can like stab yourself with it. It's like a weird, I don't know how this magic works, but like you can't hurt yourself with these
It's just
scissors.
got a little cap. It's rounded at the top with a little
that all it
plastic
is?
cap. Yes. Yeah. And so the point being that if like somebody is tied up and you could kind of need to get in like to an arm crease or
If you
something.
can't undo the rope, if you did the
can-
rope, you tied it too tight and you're like, shit, I can't get that undone. Holy fuck. You can just go like snip, snip, snip. These are the scissors they used to cut your pants off in the hospital.
Yep.
When you're in a car accident, they cut your pants off and then they go, oh, that's a nice little willy. And then they fix you up. They probably, do you reckon, okay, be serious. This is like a separate topic from BDSM. Do you reckon doctors and nurses see so many like dicks and
It's not
pussies
hot.
and titties?
And it's like, so
yeah,
see so
that's
many
not hot
people
anymore.
with like diseases and infections and old
Yeah.
people and not well kept. Like it's not.
Yeah.
And I think the one
But how
time that
come
you
doctors
do.
and nurses are the horniest ones? Like think about like Grey's Anatomy, like every TV show that features like Scrubs, like people are just horny in hospitals.
People are just horny in TV shows.
You reckon?
Yes. Yes.
I learned something today. Anyway, ropes. Why would ropes be fun? Come on, back on topic. Where's the whip? I'm gonna spank you. Get back on topic. You're getting distracted by
Very
horny
similar
TV
to
shows.
handcuffs. I think there's the element of restraint and submission that comes from being tied up, as well as the fact that, as you mentioned before, Shibari, it is the art of rope tying. It can
It looks
be
really pretty. Yeah.
a technical, artistic expression. And I think the people that really get into Shibari do it for the art form, not so much for, obviously the elements of bondage are part of the fun, but it is really like exploring like what beautiful things can I create. And I think as well it also creates an appreciation for the body. And like there's a beauty in that, like anybody when tied up with rope, it can be a different way to kind of perceive the body or accentuate certain parts of the body and appreciate the beauty in everybody's individual bodies.
Yeah, we've played around with Shibari a little bit. I have a few tutorials and like example photos and like we've done photo shoots with girls that we've dated and we've done some with you of like Shibari and stuff. I obviously can't show that on YouTube, so like yeah, but you can just Google like Shibari art. There are a few safe for work ones, like on Instagram. If you just search on Instagram for Shibari, there's a few like artists. And so they'll do these beautiful artworks with like rope and stuff when the people are fully clothed. So it's safe for the internet and safe for Instagram and shit. But it looks amazing. But even short of that, it doesn't have to be this big art form thing. Like if you're just a random husband and a random wife or some dude who's like working on his sex life or something and you're thinking like, oh, I want to try ropes, what are they supposed to do with this rope? What do they do with this? They bought this from fucking Etsy or eBay or sex toy shop. What do they do with this thing?
Well, I think very simply you can use it to tie somebody up, either like their own hands to
kind of like bind the wrist together like
behind
that.
their back, above your head, to
Yep.
their own body, to their legs, or you can use it to tie somebody to a piece of furniture like a bed or a couch or a table or anything else creative that you can think of. It's basically to keep somebody in place or to simply just wrap around one's own body as a form of restraint.
Yeah, and if you really don't know what you're doing, let's say you like absolutely literally don't know what the hell you're doing with a rope, you can basically just get the person's wrist like that and then kind of just like wrap it around a whole bunch of times. And so you can grab the rope and rather than getting it as a single piece like this and then just like, wrapping that around, you kind of double the rope. So you grab the ends and stick them together and then see how that's like two bits of rope together. It's the same piece of rope. These are just the two opposite ends of it. You've stuck them together and now it's like that because that puts a lot less pressure on wherever you're tying. Because if it's just one point like that, that's going to sort of dig in a little bit. But you grab the rope and sort of double it over. And like that, now that digs in a lot less because there's two pieces of rope there. So that's like the very, very, very basic version of rope tying. Like we're being very, very basic here deliberately because rope tying is its own whole thing. But just literally grab a rope like that, and if you want to do it on me, you just like put the person's wrist together and then kind of just like wrap it around. It doesn't even need to look good. Like honestly, like do that a couple of times and then just like you tie a knot. And there's a billion different ways of doing a knot that will come undone easily. Probably the easiest one is the same way that you would do your shoelaces. Just do a bow at the end of it, and it doesn't have to be tight. You know, again, we recommend probably not doing it super tight if you're new. It's almost just a fun little thing that you're exploring. Again, have safety scissors in case you tie a silly knot that you can't undo. But yeah, you don't have to do. People will gatekeep a lot with rope keeping. This is probably the thing that people get the most like gatekeepy. People in the BDSM community will say, you have to do ropes correctly. Like you need to do all this. You need to use this type of rope. You know, this is the type of rope most people recommend. But the way that I started was I just bought a cheap ass rope and I doubled it over, like I said, and I just tied it around people's wrists and I made sure I didn't tie it too tight that would cut off blood circulation. I guess that's something else to consider. I just made sure it wasn't too fucking tight so I wasn't going to hurt someone's wrists. And then I just had these fucking things so I could cut it off if I needed to. Like that was it.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not a big, scary, dangerous thing. Like
People make it out to be this big, scary, dangerous thing, but like go drive in a car, that's dangerous. You might die. Like everything has some danger to it.
and we've never used the safety scissors. Like there is really no need.
We have them, but we've never needed to use them. No, just don't tie the ropes crazy tight. Easy, done. And again, if you don't want to use ropes, just use a pair of like fluffy, nice handcuffs. So yeah, but the safety scissors are nice to have. Ropes are pretty fun because you can, like you said, tie someone up, bind them, they can't move. Similar to the like handcuffs, similar to the blindfold. It just means that you, the submissive person, are sort of like going to that place of surrender and you're like, okay, I'm going to let go. I'm going to choose to like relax and let go and just let what happens. Obviously you have a safe word, you say stop, can we take a break? Hey, that hurts. There's a billion safe words. And so particularly if you're inexperienced with any BDSM or you're with a new partner and you don't know, what you're both going to enjoy and all of that. One thing that we basically never do, and for good reason, we never really gag. Like we never really put something in your mouth or cover someone's mouth. We want the mouth, like we personally want the mouth always open so the person can say, hey, can we stop? Hey, I'm nervous. Hey, this hurts. Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Hey, can we slow down? Hey, can we take a break? That's what most people say. Can we take a break? Yeah, sure. Here's a big cuddle, undo all the ropes, all that. Just hang out for a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I would add about rope as well, I think as somebody who gets tied up with the rope, the term is like rope bunny. I think the other enjoyable aspect of it is, like all of this stuff, it is the sensory experience of having the rope press and pull against your skin.
It feels nice.
Yeah, that can kind of be a pleasurable thing, especially and obviously if you're getting into a more advanced sort of tie, there's going to be a lot of that. And the whole setup, we've watched demonstrations of people get tied up for a full 30 minutes as people kind of change the way that they're being tied and that kind of, the rope moves differently around the body and maybe you adjust certain things. That experience of feeling your body become slowly more restricted, having the rope pull and press against your skin. I think a lot of people who enjoy getting tied up, especially when it comes down to more traditional shibari or more elaborate shibari, like just the sensation of rope. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll give a bonus sixth one. The last one is this. Shh. We call it silent sex. It's a fun little game you and I have done a few times where basically the dominant person, whoever that might be, will say to the more submissive person, okay, we're going to have sex, or I'm going to use a vibrator on you, or I'm just going to go down on you, or I'm going to touch your body, or we can combine all of the other things we just talked about here. So I'm going to blindfold you. I'm going to use ice cubes on you. I'm going to bind your hands and I'm going to spank you a little bit. And the idea is, or the fun little game that you're both playing is, you're not allowed to make a sound. Like you, the submissive person, the person who's being pleasured and teased and edged and all of that, can't make a sound. And if you want to go really fun with this, you could even do this with just normal sex and say, we're both going to have normal sex, and whichever one of us makes a sound has to do the dishes tonight. Or like we lose and there's some
task.
Or you can do it in a more positive way. Whoever doesn't make a sound, they get to win something. They get, I don't know, a foot massage or a
dinner bought for them.
Yeah, something cool. And so it's this fun little game of like, who's going to break first? And you can even go really fun with this and set like a time limit. You can set a stopwatch for like 1 minute, and you push the stopwatch for 1 minute, and it's my turn first, and I get to do anything I want to your body within reason. I can't just like start fucking punching you or something. Like, so you can agree to the rules first, but I get to do anything to your body. And if you make a sound, I win. And after a minute, if you're silent for a minute, then we restart the stopwatch for another minute. Now you get to do anything to my body and try and make a sound. So you could give me pleasure, like you could give me a blowjob, I could finger you, I could have sex with you. It's this naughty little game of like, don't make a sound. Like, because your body wants to make sounds. You want to moan, you want to go, oh, that feels good. Oh, whoops, fuck, I wasn't supposed to say that. So it can be really, really, really fun. It's like a silly, fun, crazy little game.
Yeah, and it's a teasing, more playful aspect to BDSM as well, where it is you're really trying to push the other person and make them kind of give in to the sensation and the pleasure. And it's like that resistance and that back and forth that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of the sex that you and I have, or the BDSM and the kink, is on the more gentle side. We're definitely much more loving and soft and nice, and we want all the women that we date and sleep with to have a really good time. I want you to have a good time, obviously. You want me to have a good time. So generally speaking, we're a lot more gentle, and you can be crazy and rough with BDSM. We are sometimes, but on this channel, I think we're trying to also show people that like there is a softer side to BDSM if that's what you're more into. If you're just some like random married couple or something, and you go like, I don't want to fucking beat my wife's ass half to death with a paddle or something. I just want to try some naughty little things. Or maybe you're a guy who's in your mid-20s or something, and you want to try a little bit of BDSM with some girls that you're dating, but you're thinking, I'm intimidated by all this. I don't want to go all the way in. I just want to try one or two things. You can just experiment, try a couple of things, be gentle like we are, give someone a little spank on the bum and go, oh, how did that feel? Oh, that was naughty. Oh, fun. Like, it doesn't have to be this fucking like, all right, I'm going to enter the character of the Dom. Now I'm Mr. Dominant. Like, Neil, sit down and do this for me. Yes, sir. Yes, master. Like, you can do that stuff if you want to, and we play around with that stuff sometimes, that more formal stuff. But it can be this casual, fun little playground where you just try a few different things and see what you both like.
And I think, as we said at the beginning as well, if it is something that you maybe want to try or are curious about, but you're a bit intimidated or a bit nervous, not turning it into a big thing or a big formal thing, as you said, with these fully planned out scenes, and just trying a few things, experimenting, and kind of just exploring something with your partner and seeing it as that, like trying something new together in a fun, lighthearted way. That can take off a lot of the pressure, and as a result make it more fun, because you're not in your head, you're not putting pressure on yourself or your partner, and it's just going along for the ride and seeing what happens and having some fun, having some pleasure together.
Yeah. As always, I offer coaching. If you would like any more help with any of this, I'll leave a link in the description. BDSM is actually something that a lot of people have specifically come to coaching for. Like, they want to get decent at that. So if you go onto my YouTube channel, click on the playlists button and then scroll down to the coaching client interviews playlist. And quite a few of the coaching clients we literally helped with BDSM. So this guy here, embracing masculinity, healing with BDSM and honesty. This guy here talked a little bit about BDSM and explored that. This guy here explored a bit of BDSM. This beautiful man here, Corky, he came to us and learned how to do shibari. Like, I helped him learn how to do the rope bondage. He did a few photo shoots with a girl that he was dating, and he just went really deep with BDSM. This guy here, Renee, dated and slept with 12 women in 12 weeks, learned a bit of BDSM, or a lot of BDSM actually, and did a photo shoot and even had a threesome. And we even right now have a woman in the coaching program who literally watched one of our BDSM videos, hit me up and said, yo, hey, can I pay you for coaching? Can I do one-on-one coaching with you? Because I want to explore my BDSM side, but I want to do it in a safe way. I don't want to just rush into anything. I want to make sure I'm finding and choosing partners that will be safe and all of that kind of stuff. So BDSM is something that we've specifically coached a lot of people on. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the description to the coaching page. You can go check that out. We have payment plans if money is an issue, all that beautiful stuff. As always, what do we want these amazing, lovely human beings to do with their goals, with their ambitions, with their mission?
To go out there and crush your goals.
Go crush those beautiful, amazing goals and have fun while you do it.